Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sophia and I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Edmonton, Canada. Today I wanted to show you how to do a masking watercolor technique. I did it a few times this week. This is an example, and people have been asking me how I did it, and so I thought I would share that on here. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I am going to be using watercolor paint today, so you can use whatever palette you have to follow along, or if you have Stampin' Up! Ink pads, you can also use coordinating colors with those. All you would have to do is have a clean block, dip it into your ink pad, and use that as your ink to put onto your paper. So I am using watercolor paper. This is the Fluid 100 watercolor paper that you can buy through Stampin' Up! The next thing we're gonna need is some masking tape. So I'm gonna go ahead and just cut some off here. I'm just gonna do it with my fingers. It doesn't have to be amazing. And then what you're gonna do is take this and rip it in half and kind of give it some angles while you're doing that. Every one that you do is going to look different because these are all, they're never torn the same. So I've got my paper, and this is just a back of a notebook, and I'm going to go ahead and put that down. Okay, so just tape it right onto the watercolor paper. Then you're gonna take the other side and do the exact same thing. Make sure you give it some space on the top as well, so it's actually sticking down. Like you see this little part here, you want it to really stick down on there. So now we have this nice little pattern, and this is what we're gonna be painting. So you're gonna grab your favorite watercolor brush or your watercolor, what are they called? Water painters, which look like this. I would use the big one just because I'm using a bigger brush here. So this is a size 10. This is my favorite brush to use, and so I am going to use this. The colors I'm going to be using today are, this is a Paul Rubens palette that I made myself. So this is kind of a turquoise color, and I'm going to be using that. I'm going to use this color right next to it, which is kind of a sea blue, and then this is cobalt blue, so I'm also going to be using that one. All right, so the first thing you want to do is wet these paints. So you're going to grab your water spritzer and just go ahead and wet the paints that you're going to be using. What that does is it makes them nice and juicy so that when you put your water into there, it's not really dry. It's kind of already letting off some pigment. You're gonna have two cans of water, one for clean, one for dirty. I am going to start with the clean water. So you're gonna take your brush, just dip it in. And what I'm gonna do is, just take my clean water first, and I'm gonna wet this entire area. Okay, so you're gonna wet it, get it nice and wet, because you want those colors to really just be on there. All right. Okay, so once that's done, you're gonna start with your starting color. I am gonna use this one here. So you're just gonna pick up some pigment. It's always nice to test it in an area to see if it's the right consistency or what you're looking for. And I actually think that's pretty good, but I'm gonna get some more just to kind of put in there. Okay. And I'll add a little bit of water. I don't want it to be super dark. Okay, and then you're just gonna wipe this kind of off on here because you don't want all that extra water. So I'm gonna start from the top, and I'm just gonna kind of play I'm gonna dab it on. Okay, just like this. Get a little bit more and do the same thing here at the bottom. All right. Okay, make sure you leave some white space there for your lighter color. Okay, then I'm gonna rinse that off and pick up my next color, which is going to be the turquoise. Get it nice all over your brush. Again, have it tested over here to see the consistency of the paint. Get a little bit more water. And then I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna dab it in those white areas, okay? Just like this. And because that paper is already wet, it's gonna get the colors to kind of mix together there. Okay, you can get some more to make it a little bit brighter, but don't do this. Otherwise you're gonna end up with a lot of streaks and mixing where you don't really necessarily want it to mix, right? Okay, so I'm also gonna throw some randomness up here just so it's gonna kind of blend, right? Okay. Now, this step's really important. You wanna let this dry, okay? You wanna let it completely dry before we add any more color. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put a tiny bit more down. And then we're gonna let it dry. Also, make sure you have a paper towel with you because it's nice to just kind of dab your brush off there and you can kind of make it blend where you want it to blend. Just like that. Okay. Okay, now I'm pretty happy with this. I'm gonna let this dry and I'm gonna be right back and then we're gonna finish up. Okay guys, so we're just coming up to about like 50% dry. I'm just touching this. It still feels a little bit cool to touch, but I think we're good to continue. So you're gonna grab your palette, wet your brush again, because everything's probably kind of dried. And again, I'm gonna take a little bit more of this color and make it a little bit darker. And now I'm just going to start popping some of this color in on the top here. Okay. And when you're watercoloring, I want you to paint confidently. Don't keep going over the same area over and over again, because that's just not gonna look good. Yeah. Watercolor is very unpredictable, so you kind of just have to go with the flow. Okay. The next thing I'm gonna do is grab again the turquoise just to darken that up a little bit. Throw a little bit in there. Okay. And now we're gonna use our very last color, which is the darkest color I'm using today, and I believe it's called Sea Blue. And we're just gonna grab some. See how dark that is? It's very dark. Okay, and that's all I should need, so I'm just gonna use that. Make sure you wipe it down there before actually throwing it on. And we're gonna kind of mix this in as well. Okay. Just dot it in, that's what you want. And because it's kind of wet, it's gonna work out really well. Grab a little bit more water here. Okay. Now I'm just gonna dry off my brush here just a little bit, rinse it off, and then dry it. So you have a damp brush, and you're just gonna kind of use the side edge of your brush to kind of blend these little edges together. And you don't have to do all the edges because you still want it to look quite magical, but just some of them should be blended so it doesn't look as, you know, it doesn't have that many edges. Okay. And if you have extra blotches of paint that you don't like anywhere, you can just remove them. Okay. So I'm gonna, again, let this dry just for a few minutes while I prepare my paint. So I'm just gonna move this palette over here. And this is a metallic palette I have. So we're gonna get that. And I'm gonna look for silver. I feel like that kind of looks like silver, so I'm gonna use that. So clean off your brush completely, make sure there's no blue left on there. And where'd my spritzing bottle go? Here it is. I'm just gonna spritz my silver there, get it ready. And we're gonna pick that up. The brush, I'm gonna put it here. It kind of looks like I had some silver going on there. And I'm gonna add water to this just to lighten it up a bit. Okay, guys? Okay. I'm gonna do this. You can also just test it on there to see if you like that color. I'm not entirely sure if I'm a fan, but we're gonna try it. Okay, so you're gonna take your silver and you're kind of just gonna put it in where there's these white marks. Okay, don't need a ton of it, but it just kind of helps it blend a little. Okay, just grab a tiny bit more. I'm trying not to have a ton of water on here. All right, I am really liking this. It's gonna look different every time, guys, so if it's not perfect, you don't have to worry. When it dries, it's gonna look super cool. So I am done, I think, with this, and what I'm gonna do is just let it dry now. Actually, I might add just a tiny bit of that cobalt blue here, just to this area, to fill in some gaps. Okay. Maybe just right there too. All right, and we're gonna completely, again, let this dry, and I will be right back when it is. Okay, guys, so we're coming up to pretty much almost dry again. I do wanna add just some finishing touches with the paint. So I'm gonna pick up that black metallic paint again. I'm gonna test it here just to see the consistency. I like it. So I am just going to go ahead and where these colors meet, just add in some of that black metallic paint. Now this is gonna dry pretty silver, so I'm not too worried about it changing or you know, looking too dark, because it's not gonna look like that at the end. So anywhere where I see colors mixing, that's where I'm gonna add the metallic paint. And you don't have to add a lot, just whatever makes you happy, really. Okay. All right, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm just gonna let it dry now. Just kind of blend that, but not a lot. Okay, perfect. So now we're just gonna let that dry, and as that's drying, I will get the rest of the card together. So the next thing you're gonna do is grab a card base. I am gonna be using just a white card base today. It's thick whisper white, and it is half of a letter sized sheet. Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to take a piece of designer series paper. This is from our celebration that's going on right now. So you can get this paper free if you spend $60. And we're just gonna go ahead and put that down right onto the paper. So for this, I'm gonna use some liquid glue, just making sure that that's dry. I want it to be wet. Just like that. Okay, so as that's drying, there is gonna be a part that you're gonna have to cut off here. So I have this little area, but I'm just gonna let it dry before I go to cut that off. So again, we'll put that to the side. This is gonna be the piece that goes in the middle. So we're gonna go ahead and glue that down. And again, I'm gonna use liquid glue for this. See, so I think that looks really pretty. And this is just a piece of metallic paper that I've had in my stash, and it kind of matches what I'm doing. So that's why I'm using it. Okay, so now I'm gonna put that to the side to dry. All right, so here it is. It's completely dry. I think I'm really happy with that. So now we're gonna finally peel off the tape. All right, and then you end up with a really cool background. So I don't know if you can see that, but the silver really makes it sparkle, and it's gonna go with the paper that we're using, that polka dotted paper. Okay, so I'm just gonna move this all to the side. Now we're gonna go ahead and glue our beautiful background down onto a card base. Well, it's not a card base, I guess it's just a panel. And the panel I'm using is Tahitian Tide because it kind of brings it all together. So the best way to glue this down is to use liquid glue because it's kind of, the paper's kind of wavy, and go right until the ends here, because you really want this to stick down properly. You don't want it to go anywhere or lift. Okay, so use lots of glue there. And just gonna put it down on here. It's okay if you don't get it right the first time because it is liquid glue. It gives you that flexibility to move it around. But once it's down, yeah, just push down. Okay, I'm just gonna use my bone folder here to kind of take out that lip. Oh, and I've got a little bit of glue that came squeezing out here, so I'm just gonna erase it. Okay. All right, so isn't that pretty, you guys? Okay, and then this is gonna go onto here like that. And before I put that down, I'm just gonna take a little bit of twine. I'm gonna use the silver twine that I have and kind of throw it in the background. So we're just gonna take a piece and put it on however you like. I'm just gonna leave mine a little bit messy. And I think I'll stick it on like there. It's okay, we can fix it. Oh, it's undoing itself. Okay. And that's just gonna go right on top. So that's gonna help kind of secure that, that twine as well. Okay, there we go. So there's the thanks with the twine in behind. So this is going to go onto the card base right there. And to put it on, I am gonna use big dimensionals, so I'm just gonna grab those. Okay, and that's gonna go just right here. Okay, so there's my card. And the last thing I'm gonna do is just add a few of these. Okay. There. All right, so that is the finished card. I hope you guys liked that technique. If I were to redo it, I would definitely put a little bit less twine here, but I think either way it turned out really nice. So here's my two cards. I'd like to hear which one you like, or if you try this technique, make sure you tag me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Stampin with Sophia. All right, well, if you've liked this, please give this video a thumbs up, a like, and subscribe to my channel, and I will be back next week to show you something different. Thanks for watching. Bye.